Okay, so this is the first video in my For Vibe Coders series, which, if people like this sort of stuff, I'll make more of. So I figured the first and the most interesting video would be practical security, which is a problem that anyone who's, just getting into coding using AI is probably should be concerned about and is concerned about is, how do I make sure that the hackers don't steal all my stuff? So, this video is just supposed to be like an intro, like a gateway into security. The, actual security is pretty complicated. But the good news is, generally practical security is more about like discipline. Like you just have to make sure you stay very disciplined about, where where you put all your information and stuff and how you secure your app. And so I'll just get uh this video is just a brief intro for that. So the first super practical advice is make sure your secret key is secure. Okay, so your secret key could be your password, or it could be your like OpenAI secret key, right? So make sure you keep all of these things private and safe, because if these things go out into the world, all sorts of disastrous things can happen, and this uh, often by the time you realize it might be too late. So first thing is you don't want to commit your secret keys to Git or GitHub. So you don't want people online to just open your code base and just see all your passwords. That's not good. Don't share them online. Don't send it to any AI or any uh, uh, anyone else, and don't include it in your front end. Okay, so your front end is the part of your code that gets sent to the browser, and it runs in the browser, and that's how you get the website, right? But if you send your password along with the front end, then they can get access to a lot more than just your website, right? So some examples of secret keys, like your OpenAI secret key, your Stripe secret key, and your Postgres secret key. So if someone has your OpenAI secret key, they can send requests to OpenAI pretending to be you and use up your OpenAI credits, right? So that leads to the second super practical advice, which is you always want to do threat modeling. Okay, so you want to list down what could go wrong for your particular app. So the most common and disastrous three I've listed down for you is, if your Stripe gets a secret key gets leaked, then people can just transfer your Stripe balance into their own account, right? Which is obviously not great. Or if your OpenAI secret key gets leaked, random people can just use your OpenAI credits, and uh, and as we saw somewhat recently in the T app, you don't want random people to access your database, because they'll leak information of your customers to from your database, or they can add random entries, or just mess around with the database, and that can lead to disastrous results. So with that in mind, you want to be aware of what could go wrong, and also you want to be aware of, okay, now you want to translate that into like the more technical side of things, which is, okay, how can we then secure everything to make sure those things don't happen? So you kind of want to list every part of your app or system that interacts with the world. So for example, your OpenAI account can be accessed via your login or your secret key, right? Or your Postgres database can be accessed via like a secret URL or your Supabase account. So, or like every endpoint or webhook in your server, um, like anyone can send a request to it, right? But you can secure all of these things um, by like limiting the amount of access to them, or so for example, like if you have like an endpoint, which is create a new user in your database, you want to check that whoever's sending that request to create a new user is supposed to be able to, right? So you want to check who they are, like you want to authenticate them, and then you want to authorize them. You want to check that they are who they say they are, and they have the permission to do what they want to do. So everything needs to be checked, basically. And I think practical security is really more about like discipline than fancy, math algorithms or anything like that. That's more research security. So uh, the last piece of advice, probably a very important one, is if you're not sure, just ask AI, right? So AI can only focus on one thing at a time. If you ask it to code your app, it will just focus on coding the app, and it will probably, now in 2025, do a pretty good job at it. But the app won't be secure at all. Not because the AI is stupid, but because it just wants to get the app working. And once you get a lot of security stuff set up, then maybe that might interfere with testing the functionality and all that stuff. So once you feel like the app is doing pretty great and it's worth maybe taking it to production, then you want to prompt the AI. It's like, okay, now let's really make sure the app is secure. And the other thing is, the AI might not be able to secure everything, right? Like some things are, harder for the AI to do, like make sure you don't leak leak your password and all that sort of stuff. That's more of a human problem, but it always does a pretty good job teaching you. So if you just explain that, okay, my app does X and it has parts, A, B, C, what could go wrong, and how can I fix them? It will do a pretty good job listing all the possible threats and how you should mitigate against those threats. And me personally, I had a really good experience with getting Codex to audit my app. So you just say, act as a security auditor, identify risk in my app, and it did a pretty good job listing like, here are the critical things you might want to take a look at. Here are the high risk things. Here are the not so important things, but you might want to take a look at anyway. So with all that in mind, I think uh, hopefully this is a strong intro slash gateway into thinking about security for any vibe coders out there. And please let me know if this video format is useful or not. I'm trying to experiment with some different types of content. So uh, yeah, please let me know, and thank you for watching.